Hey YouTube family, it's Dinko the Realtor, your Utah Realtor. Today we're going to be analyzing why the housing market has not stabilized. The economy has not stabilized. I've been saying this for over a year now. Nothing has stabilized in the economy, in the housing market. You're going to want to watch this video until the end so that you know exactly what is going on, and that way you're able to make a financial decision you feel comfortable with. So take a look at this. 7% mortgage rates make a comeback and stiffing home buying demand. Now, why is this important? Well, if the amount of people that are applying for mortgage applications is still historically low, it's decreasing. We're way below where we were in 2019, the last pre-pandemic year, way below where we were at in 2021 and 2020, the first half of 2022. Well, that means there's not going to be those multiple offers on every single house. Now, some houses in the springtime could get those, especially in that entry level, right? But look at this. 7% mortgage rates make a comeback, and buying demand is being, it's decreasing. So until buying demand increases, until the under contracts start increasing, until everything starts going up, until inventory starts coming down, all of these things are signaling that, hey, okay, multiple offers, are going to become the norm again. And nothing is indicating that. So if 7% mortgage rates are making a comeback, well, what happened to mortgage rates are going to just start dropping? And I've been saying the only reason the Fed is going to aggressively cut rates is if something in the economy breaks. I mean, Jerome Powell has been stating that if everything is great in the economy, there's no point, there's no reason to cut the rates. And the Fed has been saying that, look, we're not going to cut these rates as aggressively or as quickly as people are projecting unless something in the economy breaks. So if something in the economy breaks, well, then nothing has stabilized, right? And if nothing in the economy breaks, then nothing has stabilized with the interest rates, because they're not going to just fall down and go back to the 3-4 percentile anytime soon, unless something breaks in the economy. So 7% mortgage rates make a comeback. Now let's take a look at this graph here. Look at that. So we were in the 8th percentile, right? And that's when everything was going really bad in October, November. Then they started coming down. And look at this drop in December. This is where everybody said, oh my gosh, you better start buying a house or you're going to be homeless, because right here, interest rates are just going to start dropping. They're going to be in the 5th percentile very soon. And then it just pivoted and we're back into the 7s. So that is just showing you that nothing has stabilized. And people are just being optimistic and hopeful that things are just going to stabilize. Look at the 10-year. So right here, the 10-year is showing us that, okay, it fell from those highs that we had in October, and then this is where it started coming down. And then look at it, 10-year makes the flip. So this is what's correlating with where interest rates are going to be. And the fight against inflation, there's been a bunch of articles. The Fed is not happy. Inflation is making a comeback where all of a sudden inflation is above the projected numbers. So if that's the case, then they're not going to cut the rates, because inflation is the #1 goal, to get that under control. Well, if that's kind of starting to now pivot and it's starting to go up instead of down, well, we know that the rates are not going to be cut. And the Fed now has said, look, you guys really need to take this into consideration, because these rates are not going to be cut as aggressively or as soon. And so the Wall Street now projections, they had about a 70% chance that the Fed was going to cut rates in March. Now they're saying that the first Fed cut might not even be until June or July. So you see how this information is just always changing. And this is why I said nothing is stabilized. Make sure that you're paying attention to kind of what's going on in the economy, so you're making that financial decision you feel comfortable with. And this right here, we went over this, but this is something to pay attention to. Housing industry urges Powell to stop raising interest rates and risk an economic downturn. So this was in October of 2023. Well, if interest rates are now making a comeback going up because the 10-year is going up and inflation is not under control, is housing going to cause that recession? And I have the data, so I want to show y'all what's actually going on here. Let me pull this up right here. So if we take a look at this, let me just remove myself entirely. Look at the inventory. So when we're comparing year over year, February 21st of 2024 to February 21st of 2023, we have 7,100 units compared to 6,888 units. So we have 200 homes more than when we compare year over year. And why is that an important thing? Well, when we started the year in 2023, for that first half of 2023, we had more inventory year over year. And in the second half of 2023, we actually had less inventory year over year, because the market went down 15%, where prices went down 15%. Median price went from 600,000 to 510,000 from May 2022 to January of 2023. And inventory for that second half of 2022 was building up. So we started the year with so much more inventory. However, and I've been showing this, the only reason we did not continue that housing crash was because of this right here. And I don't think I have to remove myself here. Look at this. The amount of inventory that was hitting the market less. We had 1,000 plus homes all the way from March into July. So we had 5 consecutive months of 1,200 all the way up to 1,800 less units hitting the housing market. If we had the same amount of listings hitting the market as we did in 2022 or in 2019, the last pre-pandemic year, the housing crash would have just continued happening because we would have had so much inventory. I mean, we would have never gotten to that, 7,000, 8,000 like right now. Because if you were to add all of these thousands, right? So let's just say adding 5,000 homes and we flip over here, well, all of a sudden this inventory would have been 12,000. What would have that done to the home prices, right? It would have absolutely crashed them. So the only thing that prevented that housing crash from continuing is the fact that less houses were being put on the market. But look at this, and I've been showing this in previous videos. This is the big kicker right now to pay attention to. Look at this right there. 3 consecutive months of increases in the amount of homes hitting the market. 100, right? Nothing big. 256 and then 499. And the preliminary data is showing that February is going to be another month where we're going to have more inventory hitting the market year over year. So that means this inventory over here is most likely going to keep building up as the year progresses. Now, I actually use this data and all these different points where, hey, these interest rates are not going to come down. And I gave all this information to the builder agent. He went over to the builder, and the builder said, I'm actually, even though I discounted this house, I'm actually going to discount it even further because that is actually some really good, valid data points. So it worked where the builder actually said, hold on, I'm not as optimistic about the spring buying season as I was in December and at the beginning of January. I kind of now maybe want to just move this house. So you see that the builders, and I actually experienced this because now I have builders calling me where some buyers were interested, and all of a sudden they said, oh, you better buy the house. We're getting a bunch of interest. Interest rates are going to start coming down, and we're actually anticipating raising our prices in the spring. And now none of that has happened because the demand has not come. Interest rates have not fallen. Nothing has stabilized. And then check this out right here. So if we take a look at this article by Forbes, what just happened? They're going to give me an advertisement. All right, well, let's go over to this article. This was something that I've been saying for us to pay attention to. Look at this. Auto loans pass student loans in consumer debt load, the Fed data shows. And right here, auto loan delinquencies are on the rise and more consumers could fall behind if unemployment increases. So remember, I've been showing y'all that the repos are higher than any time prior or during the 08-09 financial crisis. And this is with a historically low unemployment rate. Well, the car loans are resembling the subprime mortgages of 08-09. So the car market hasn't stabilized, the housing market hasn't stabilized, and then the commercial real estate bubble has not stabilized, where there's a lot of these vacancies in the offices. Let's see if this has finally passed loading. And here we go. So, they've always been downplaying this commercial real estate, how a real estate crisis, and this is in the commercial sector, could hurt the job market. And I've been saying this for over a year now, that look, if all of a sudden there's all these defaults on commercial space, right? There's janitors, electricians, plumbers. I mean, the thing is all of this is a circle of life when it comes to economics, right? It's not just, oh, that business, that building shutting down, it has nothing to do with homes. Well, yes, it does, because if a huge building gets shut down, janitors, plumbers, electricians, security guards, all of these people lose jobs. The restaurants that are around these big buildings are no longer getting the rushes during lunch, during breakfast, after work. All of a sudden, their business starts hurting. And you see, this is a circle of economic life. And this is all going to potentially hurt the market. This is why I've been saying nothing has stabilized. We have to look at the data, the information of what's going on. And this right here is the only thing I've been showing. Look at the debt. This is the national debt. I mean, once we went away from the gold standard in the 70s, look at during the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and now. I mean, the amount of money being printed. So, of course, they're going to stimulate the economy. They're not going to want to see, a depression. However, if things just pop, who knows what the what the downward trend could actually be. This is why I'm saying nothing has stabilized. I made projections that this is going to be the great housing correction, and we've seen prices dropping upwards of 15%. And I said we're going to see the great housing correction potentially reach 30%. And I've been saying I believe it's going to end up being somewhere about 20% plus. And right now we're kind of flirting between 8% and 15% was the low, and right now we're kind of between that 8 and 12%. So I believe there's still at least another 5 to 8% of home prices coming down. And this is if we don't see unemployment just skyrocket. And the tech bubble is also, remember, the dot-com bubble in 2000 prevented there from being a tech bubble in 08, 09. However, everything in tech has been booming right now. And only 5% of companies that are valued over $1 billion per that CNN article that I showed a couple of months ago are actually able to generate a profit. So we see that nothing has stabilized, and until unemployment rate starts going up, we don't know what the downward trend is going to be. Also, until the interest rates actually come down, until inflation is under control, and until they actually start cutting those rates, and we see that, hey, maybe this economy is going to have a soft landing where the recession isn't going to be too bad. So this is all the information you have to pay attention to, and this is the reason why the second half of the year has always been producing the better deals. Now, look, if you want to take advantage of the housing market, I'm still doing that for people. Even houses that hit the market, that are new to the market, I'm dropping prices for the buyers on those homes. And I'm also using this data and information to make sure that my sellers are getting top dollar for their house. So everything that I do is just following the data. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. If I did, I would find a new stock, or maybe I would just go to Vegas for one night, right? But I don't have that crystal ball. So we just have to follow the data, and you have to follow it as well to make sure you're making that financial decision you feel comfortable with.